Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Decoded Podcast, Season 6, Episode 31, number 249. Right before I hit broadcast, I did tweet out the link. So hopefully we have some
Utes.
visitors. Hopefully, but if we don't, it's okay. You and I know that.
Lots of parking, baby. Lots of
Lots of,
parking.
and in the tweet, I did use that hashtag.
Lots of
Thanks
parking.
to lots of parking available, or I don't remember how I said it, but I did say
It's
there's
like,
lots of
yeah,
parking.
lots of parking close to the pod,
Come
right?
on in. Yeah,
Come on in.
it's no biggie.
The story that's never been told.
Oh, are you referring now to,
We can jump because we kind of launched. Sometimes the on ramp, right?
you okay, Clough? Oh, okay, he's
I'm
got the
back. I'm
mute.
back.
I
I'm back.
I love I love the ninja mute button. You're like, "I'm
I'm
dying, but
getting
I'm gonna
better, eh?
mute." Yeah.
I'm getting
No,
better.
you're already good.
Well, but sometimes I forget to come back, or I don't notice that. I just start talking, right? Um, so just to that, you know what's kind of cool that I just figured out or noticed? You can on Instagram Reels
Yeah.
or live, you can do hand gestures that'll start and stop your recording.
Oh, I
Did
like
not know
that.
that. Yeah, I did not know that. So our on ramp, sometimes it's just like a sweet, like just a nice ride. And then we're like, it's kind of almost like, we gonna do a podcast? Like, okay, let's do a podcast. And then other times it's a grind, right? We gotta unload. We gotta unload. And it feels like it's the longest, most like straight up kind of a thing. And then there's like today, which is a little bit like stunt driving, where there's like we just kind of like get that momentum. It's nice and smooth. You're in the proper lane on the highway. No one's in your way, and you're just like. "Wrrr." But I felt like at the top, before we sort of got on that next road, it's kind of like like in Fortnite, it's all about, can you get enough speed to launch well, and then your points and it's like you're on fire, and it's like, you're gathering points. I feel like we did that. It's like, hey, do we want to jump in on this point? Let's jump in. So it's like record. I like that. We That's a really cool way to get into a podcast. And I would wonder from the listener's perspective if they can hear an energy difference. Now, I am 2 coffees into my day, so it could be that as well. But just there's a different feel, right? Like when we get a thing like, oh, wait. And I think I've even said this to you. I'm like, shh, no, hit record, let's get going. And then there's the other times where you just hit record and I'm like in mid sentence. So I know that I've come in part sentence in an idea and we've launched. But I would wonder from anyone that's kind of listened to us, over the last 6 years. I don't know if they've ever oh, like they hear us start talking like, oh, the on ramp was tough today.
Okay, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
The on-ramp was tough, or the on-ramp was whatever it was. I'll tell you too
Phew! Just like
that
that.
since my cold brew is almost
Yeah.
gone, like I'm feeling that right now, and I think we're flowing. It's
We are.
perfect timing. The
Okay.
caffeine's hitting me. I've been
Mhm.
like boom, like superhero re-energized as I finish that off, and then
When the caffeine hits. When
start
the
on my
caffeine hits.
decaf because I can't have two caffeinated beverages. But
Yeah.
okay, I'd like to launch with
Okay.
a story about this week, and
Dude,
then
we're in midair right now. Start flapping. Start flapping. Go, go, go. Come on.
and then you're gonna
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us a story that you've never told me before.
Mhm. I haven't told anyone.
Oh, okay, I like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And here it is on season 6,
Live.
episode 31, 249. So when your kids
Saturday
listen to
morning,
the
baby.
podcast, they're
Yep.
gonna be like, "Dad told a story he never told anybody."
Mhm.
This week, two of my students that I work with were on retreat with their grade 8 class at Mount Mary Retreat Center in Ancaster, Ontario. I've been to Mount Mary many times as a visitor to visit students that were there, grade 8s that were there, and as a supervisor sleeping over and being responsible for the boys at night. And I've had really great experiences at Mount Mary and not so great experiences at Mount Mary. Having said that, I do enjoy every opportunity that I get. So these two students that I work with, they're going on retreat. They were nervous because We're not going to be having their cell phones and their video games and all that stuff that their creature comforts at home. They're going to have to step out of their comfort zone for 2 nights and 3 days. And they're like, "Will you come and see us?" Of course I will. So I put in my calendar, I'm going to be at Mount Mary for a chunk of the day. And I told them, you know what? I'm going to come for the hike. And they're like, "There's going to be a hike?" I'm like, "Oh, shoot. Okay. There's going to be a hike. So I'll be there for the hike. Because you guys, if you're going to complain and moan and groan, you should probably do it with me and not the grade 8 teachers who will probably be tired and not interested in listening to your complaining, because I can say that from experience, right? So you guys can just hit me with it. So we get to Mount Mary, and there's kind of a tradition. The person that comes up in the morning will bring drinks for people. So I was communicating with one of the teachers. I'm like, "Hit me with the drink order. I'll make your morning," or whatever. So I come in with the drinks, and the kids are doing their thing, and people are waving at me, which is nice. It's nice to see that kids are like, "Hey, it's Mr. C, he's here." We get ready, we go on this hike, and it was a long hike, and it was a good hike. But when we got back to the retreat center, which is an old school, we I walk out of the forest, and I look up, and one of my students is sitting on one of the hills. There's lots of hills. He's sitting on the hill, the sun is shining. It's like it spoke to me. Seriously, I'm looking at it, I'm like, "Whoa." Um, so I pull out my phone, I take a picture, and right away, and I gotta say, I've talked to you about poetry and spoken word and all that, and it generally is not like, it doesn't flow through me easily. It doesn't come to me easily, but I play with it because you're my friend and I know you like to do that stuff. And so I respect you. I respect your creative. I respect your art. So, I pay attention as much as I can. So I take the picture, and then as I'm just staring at him, like exhausted, I literally have words come to me. Like, I'm thinking, "Okay, that was a great hike. I feel really good. Why do I feel good? I feel good because I'm in a special place. Okay, why am I here? I'm here for my students. What does that mean?" And so I take the picture, and then the words come to me. I texted myself a lot of these words, and I recently put them together. But I want to thank you. I want to thank Jamie Rodrigue, and I want to thank Carl, one of my digital friends on Twitter from the UK, because you guys are constantly rolling in the creative, and you're including me. And when you include me, um, that's a big deal to me. I feel blessed and honored that people would include me. So I want to thank you guys for, like, that picture, those words. That's all me. Like, no AI assistance, no checking in with anybody, no um, thinking twice or three times about the words I'm using. It's like all that stuff just went to trash, and I just did it. So that's cool. But the heart, so there's my student story. But let me tell you about something I've done with my older kid, which I've now tried to do with my younger kid at Mount Mary. So years ago, actually right before the pandemic hit, my older
Mhm.
son, my 16-year-old, he was in grade 8, and he had just gone to Mount Mary, and I had been there before his school went, and I was there supervising the grade 8s at St. John's. And I decided to leave a note for my son and hide it in a special place in the hallway where he'd be sleeping. So I wrote a note. I found the perfect place to hide it. And then the the night before my son was to go to Mount Mary, I showed him a picture and I said, "Do you see this picture?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "When you get to Mount Mary and when you have an opportunity, I need you to go to this place. I've left something for you." He's like, "Okay." Me and my 16-year-old we don't always see eye to eye. So This is a bit out of character for me. So anyway, he comes back from his trip and he's pretty excited that I left him a note. It was good for him and it was good for me. And it's something that comes up every now and again. So two thumbs up on that one. So then COVID hits and it's like there's no more retreat. Nobody's going to Mount Mary retreat. But now it's back because COVID's gone. We've erased COVID out of our collective memories. It's gone. Um, so I go up there and I say to the teachers that are working, I'm like, okay, when the hike's over and we go for lunch, I'll stay for lunch, but then I'm out of here. Where are you guys going to go? What are you guys going to be doing? They're like, "Oh, we're staying downstairs. We're going to go to the room across the hall and we're going to be doing an activity in there." I'm like, "Okay, just so you know, before I leave, I'm going to write a note and I'm going to leave it upstairs for my other son." They're like, "Oh, is he coming?" I'm like, "He's in grade 7. So who knows if he's coming next year, but this is my opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to be back here." So they're like, "Okay." So I say bye to the students and I go to the car. I put my stuff in the car. I grab a piece of paper and a pen. I come back in and some tape. I even brought my own tape and I write the note. And as I go to place the note in a space where I'm not supposed to be, I mean, I'm a teacher, so I'm allowed to be there, but I'm not staying over. So why am I in the boys' hallway? I hear people outside. The doors are open. Like there are two doors that block the hallway, but they're open. So anybody walking down the other hallway could see me, right? So I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do like ninja rolls and stuff so that I'm not seen or whatever. So I write the note, I go to the spot, I fold up the letter, I tape it into the box. Like, okay, so I just gave away something, but I can't really tell you where the note is because anyway, so I tape it in
Awesome
there.
about this moment is we've talked about how years from now our kids will see the content, right? So even this is like Easter egg inside of an Easter egg. So you're good, bro. You're good. Keep rolling.
Okay, so I tape it, I leave the area. Now I'm good to leave. And then I think to myself, I only used one piece of tape. I should really have another piece of tape.
Yeah.
But now I'm really in trouble. Now it's really black ops because the lady in the office is now out of her office and she's talking to what appears to be like a handyman. And the hallway where the boys sleep is right beside the gym. The gym doors are open. My hallway doors are open. So they are standing very close to me. They can't see me, but I can hear every word they say. And I think to myself, okay, I got to get the tape there. And if somebody comes around the corner and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'd be like, I could be like, "Hey, let me explain it to you," or just, "I was just checking out the boys' hallway. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna tell the truth? Am I gonna lie?" These are things that are going through my head, but I'm like, come hell or high water, I'm leaving that note and I'm putting another piece of tape up there. So I do my ninja roll. I do. I put the tape on. I make sure it's as secure as it can be because it's literally gonna have to live there for a year if my son even goes next year, right? It's going to live there for a year. I do it and I get out and I'm good. And that's the story. So when my son goes next year, if he goes, the night before he goes, I'm going to show him the picture I showed you. And I'm going to say, when you get there and you have a moment, get to this section in your hallway. So he doesn't have to like actually go somewhere else in the building where he's not allowed. Go here, reach here, there will be something for you there. And we'll see if I can pull it off with both of my boys with the Mount Mary Retreat Center. So there's my story. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
That's good. It's good. And the on ramp that kind of launched us here, the pew was this energy around um fathering. What does this idea of fathering and the way that it can kind of manifest. And there's no one way to do it, and there's no one identity that does it. And we 2 years ago, at some point, you and I were talking about this idea that mothering has a very there's a social construct around that. There's this idea that there's things you do. It's not just about genetically who you are. There's this idea that mothering is relational and you can demonstrate it, but it's an emotion. It's a verb and a noun at the same time. And I think we landed on the fathering one. And it's like that feels like that's all biological. Like there's an element of biology here. Yeah, you fathered children, and then it's like full stop. And what I love about this podcast is that we've spent 6 years exploring the rest of that story. And this is part of that story. For me, the nearest equivalent for what you're doing here is me. I love to be performative with the people, my kids, obviously, and and my family. And I mean that performative in the whimsical element of it, not performative as in being fake, as in just whimsy, fun, some jokey, some surprise, spontaneity. Like that's the type of stuff I love to do for my family. And I mentioned, on the on ramp, this idea of time bombing them, as in I don't necessarily have to be there when the surprise or the idea goes off, but I like setting these things up. And so I am the person that'll like sneak stuff in their lunches or leave something in my spouse's car, or just kind of do a thing, come home with Oreos, hoping full well someone says, "You never buy Oreos." I'm like, yes. So I've sort of operated in a way that's surprising, but welcoming at the same time. So I've been kind of rocking that for years. I have not set up the same thing that you have, but I love the beauty of it. I also love, I'll tell you straight up, just it landed with you telling this story. I think this is at least the third or fourth time I've heard it. And I feel like you settled deeper into just the resonance of it, like just the emotional fabric of it. And I hear you get stalled for a second and you're like, okay, you're choosing to still exist in that moment. And there's some good stuff. That's the good emotions of sort of being in this moment with our kids and working through the complications and the wonder of it. So the story that I've never told you, and I don't think someone has witnessed me do this on two occasions. Um, but I don't think I haven't sort of widely told this. So you mentioned it. Like I'm down with the poetry. I like the poetry. And I've started to think about my purpose with poetry. Like I for me, um I fall more on the writing side of it. Like I want to be the creator. I do enjoy reading it, and I do enjoy seeing spoken word, and I enjoy seeing other people perform poetry. I do. Where I it's that's there's a different set of feels though that I get from when I'm in the center of the poem. So I'm trying to express something through poetry. I'm trying to notice something through poetry. Or I'm trying to kind of decode something because it's a tool that I use sometimes just to kind of like figure shit out. So, um, for a few years now, I have been putting Post-it notes of poetry into the library books of the schools that I've been at. So, so, the little Post-it, and it's just what sometimes it's a scrap of paper. The Post-its are good though because they stay and they won't fall out. So it's see the what's really important to me is that it in my particular case it could be somebody else, anybody else wants to action this, you do it your way. For me it's important that someone actually finds the page. I want it down to that point. Sometimes sometimes I've read the book, sometimes I haven't. Sometimes I just leaf through the book and I was like, oh, I kind of like what the author, is it John Green, Turtles All the Way Down. Great book, great story. Anybody listening in, if you, it's a really great story. So that one probably it comes to mind. There's a lot of post-its in that one. Like there's probably three or four little pieces. Now it's never my writing, so I'm grabbing other authors, and it's really quick. Like I have apps, I have Google, I have whatever. So I always have little snippets here and there. And I'll just write a piece, and I always write at the top, this is for you, reader. That's it. And then I just write the piece. I don't sign it myself. I don't. I just kind of put that in there and I walk away. But I've been doing that. I've been doing that off and on at three different schools that I've been at. Um, but I've been caught twice. Um, and it just sort of became a conversation. So I don't know if someone's ever outed me. Like, hey, do you know what Clough's been doing? But yeah, but again, um, very much in step of this idea of setting up an experience for somebody else. And a post-it note, right? Like they're pennies, right? Little scrap pieces of paper, sort of inside of a book. Um, and I feel like part of my deeper purpose when it comes to poetry, I feel is just to get more of it out there. And I post up a lot. I try. I most of my stuff, 80-90% of my stuff is findable on my website, the stuff that I've created. So I'm open sourcing this idea that you can just do poetry like you do talking, like you do drawing, like you do walking and exercise. It's just it can be just that typical. I know people have kind of said, like, how do you just keep posting it up? But like I've had like Mel White has asked me that a couple times. Like, it's kind of a question, but it's a noticing. Like, you post up a lot of stuff. I'm like, can't help myself. It's just kind of like, I guess, the way that I move through the world. So with that in mind, like I said, I sort of decided I'm going to start just Dropboxing these little pieces and leave them in books. I wouldn't be able to tell you what. I've never kept a list of the books. Like, I wouldn't be able to, even if I were to look at my current library, I probably would not be able to tell you the books that I put it in there. Um, yeah. So that's the story that I've never told. Story I've never told. I guess as a model for sharing poetry, I would encourage anyone to do this. It's so super simple. It's like so super simple. Heck, doesn't even have to be, and it's in the spirit of what you're saying too. You can express you can express love. You could express some frustration. You could express something creative, a little affirmation. And I do believe, like, part of the on ramp, like you and I talking, the next best thing to one of your kids finding this stuff that you've Easter egged for them is someone 10, 15 years from now that's doing the cleanup, and they reach into that space and they're like, "Something's a little bit strange about this," and they pull out the thing and they look at it and they're like, "Holy shit." Like, it's gonna take them a second. Just that dissonance that you're gonna create of them finding a thing that shouldn't be there, then them figuring out what this actual thing is, and then them trying to create the narrative that led to that thing being there, seeing the date there, that is such an incredibly human and like so human, such a rich kind of thing. And they're drawn into a relationship that was completely unexpected, and they're transformed. They're going to go about their day that just like, wow, where's that person today? Where's the person that was supposed to get it? Like, it's such a gift to be able to think outside your context, and suddenly feel like it's almost to the point where I imagine in the future, totally want this to be about you and your family, but I also imagine in the future somebody else finding that thing and them doing this as they sort of look at it and then they do this. Like, am I on candid camera or something? Like that moment of like the other, that sort of omniscient voice kind of talking to them. Like, somehow their actual life has a not only a soundtrack because maybe they're listening on their iPhones, but it has a narrator as well. It's so cool. You're putting them right inside the art. I love it. Love it.
I really like your story. I like what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. It's so simple, but yet so, in my opinion, it's so simple yet so effective. It'd be so cool to see the look on people's faces when they
Mhm.
crack that book open and they find it. It's
I've
like,
never had that. I haven't had that yet. Like, I've never
mhm,
been. I've never been there when it's actually been found. I've never walked past a conversation. This is where the time bombing can be deeply satisfying. Where, and there was a time where my kids operated this way too. Like I would do a thing, they would find the thing, and they actually wouldn't know how that thing happened. They're at the point now, the randomness, they're like, yeah, dad did that. Dad did that. But I do expect at some point in my career to be in the least walking past somebody or somebodies, and they're like, holy shit, you know what I found in a book? You know what I found in a book? I found this post-it note, and there was like this random piece of poetry. So then I started looking at some other books to see if I could find another one. Right? Like that's the like that's the energy. That's that joy. That's tapping into that universal of what art can do and what sort of like artistic activity can do. So even bringing it back to where you started on this about starting to find the Easter egg hidden in you, because you've been infected by this as well. Where you started with this, like just the gratitude for thanks for sort of including me in this. That is like a metaphysical version of the exact same post-it note. And you found it in yourself, in your own story, in your own book. I can do it in my way. So I love it. Love it.
Um, Excellent. So Gary says he loves the idea, and he can only imagine the surprise and enjoyment the finder would experience.
Gary, it's the finder, it's the sharer. Start doing it, buddy. Find a way. Easter egg somebody. Like it's so, in this in because we're still in kind of like this era of the almost cruel side of the, like the jackass version of this. But what if it's entirely, well, you know what I'm saying though, right? Like those movies, part of what was is like people were being surprised and being hurt and harmed. This is just, that whole random acts of kindness. But I think the getting used, like sort of creating a practice of doing it, that this is the practice that works for me. And everybody can do it differently. Maybe you're the person that does it at Tim Hortons, so you pay for a few coffees. Maybe you're the one that always makes sure you're opening doors for people. Maybe yours is like just picking up garbage as you're sort of walking from your car to the school. So you're thinking to yourself, no one's going to see, like, this isn't for anybody other than it's just a good way to move through the world. I'm going to pick up pieces along my path, and I'm doing my duty to sort of clean up after people. It's still a kindness. But I think this idea, I like the kindness, but I also like the kindness with an Easter egg kind of element. Not that I need the gratitude back, but just this idea that someone's going to find it at some point, and at that point it could be aspirational, it could be inspirational, or it could just give them a really good feel. Like I like being a part of that movement, and sort of starting to believe that other people are doing it too. Like I like feeling that connection.
So now I think to myself, I walk into Gary's school, go to the library to do this, and I see Gary in the library doing the same thing. Or I'm at Rochelle's school.
Mhm,
Rochelle's with us. Thanks, Rochelle. And I
mhm.
see Rochelle, combing through the library. Um, it's a cool thing, and it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be a library. It doesn't have to be a
No.
book. It could be a store where you
Mhm,
walk around with your sticky notes. It could
mhm.
be, I just had this thought in an elevator. You go in, you hit your button, you put the sticky note on the thing, and then you walk out of the elevator. And someone's going to see it, whether they like it, not like it, whatever. We can do it anywhere, at any time, anywhere at any time, which reminds me of a couple of things. Can I drop something else unless you wanna keep going with your train of thought?
Are you adding another car to this train, or are you gonna we jump in tracks?
I think we're jumping tracks.
Let me drop one more thing there. So what I used to do prior
Yeah.
to this. So here's what the 1.0 was to this. And you're gonna love this too. I don't think I may have told you this, but my 1.0 of this was I would order from Amazon googly eyes, and I would googly eye people's shit. So I would sort of I would put it on like people's phones, like on the wall. For a little while there, the kind of very standard iconographic bathroom signs, and there's two people, you know, genderized. One's supposed to be a guy, one's supposed to be a gal. So I put googly eyes on them. I put on staplers. I put at the top of people's monitors, and I would always do that to sometimes I carried them with me. So sometimes I'd just be walking down the hall of the school that I'm in, and I did the doors unlocked. I would go in the room and I would Google eye something. And those conversations, I someone found out. So it became known, but it didn't stop me. I did it. I put googly eyes on some of the funnier ones, as you can get the larger googly eyes. So you want to make sure, pro tip, anyone out there sort of activating this one, you want to get the ones that already have the adhesive on them. So pay a little bit more, and they're like stickers. So like some doors have like there's a little window on it, right? So I would actually put two googly eyes on like either on the outside or the inside, depending on the actual experience I wanted to give somebody, and I would draw just in whiteboard marker a face outline. And so if you were coming up to my door and I put the googly eyes on the outside, if I came up to the door and stood right in front, this is like you know what I was doing? This is pre TikTok Snapchat filters. I'm doing real life Snapchat, because you've seen these TikTok Snapchat filters where you can do like Google. There's the two like big googly eye thing, and people are like obsessed with putting them up to their dog. So I would do that on the windows of the doors. So people would kind of walk up to it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny. And like when they got close enough to it, sometimes the Google eyes are too close together or too far apart. But as long as they put their face in that space, it was awesome. So googly eyes was my my 1.0. And I that was my gateway. My gateway activity was Google. I love it. And the reason this comes to mind, I was cleaning out a box of just school crap. Yeah, you could, yeah, absolutely stuff a note into a locker. Yeah, for
I
sure.
didn't mean to throw you off. I just
No,
now,
no, that works too. That
Gary,
works
you
too.
need to get the googly eyes and get the
Yeah.
notes and start stuffing them into lockers.
Yep. So I was going through a box of school crap, and I found just one of the like a few partially used sheets of the googly eyes. I'm like, I got to get back on that again. That was really joyful, because I would do it and I would stare there. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so funny. I actually have some pictures that I posted up back in the day, I think on one of my feeds. Like, to have googly eyes just looking back at you like on the front of your stapler is hilarious. Actually, I'm going to show you. Let me show you one thing just before I let you go, or you let me go. So on my monitor, so this monitor I've had a while, but you can see it's googly eyed. I have a three-eyed googly eye on it, right? So there's the throwback. There's the throwback.
It's funny
And
that you're
and they're so cheap. It's just
right.
such a cheap bit of joy, right?
I have a text message from my wife that was sent within the last week and a half that
Yep.
I think says googly eyes, because what happens is we text each other things that we need to pick up so we don't forget. And
Mm-hmm.
I think she was ordering them from Amazon for whatever reason. I should ask her now, because so what
Perfect.
happens is she'll text me, and then the next day I'm like, hey hun, googly eyes. She's like, oh thanks, thanks. So even she was buying some for something she's doing at school. But man, now you got me thinking, because I'm all over the place all the time. So I'm thinking a couple of things. I love the googly eyes idea. I want to buy some chocolate and candy from the dollar store that I can put the googly eyes on and then leave around here and there and
Dude,
everywhere.
you do it once, and you'll be like, this is it'll wear, but
Well,
the first few you do, you're like, this is awesome. Because it's just so damn cute.
and I'll find a way to we'll innovate, like, right, we'll innovate, we'll figure out different ways and what works and what doesn't work and what needs to be reloaded in order to bring the dopamine, I guess, in a different way. So thanks for that. That is good. I appreciate that story. I'm glad that you saved that one for the Decoded podcast. So I'm gonna shift. What are they called on the train tracks when you shift the track so that you pull
Oh,
the lever and the track moves so that the train will now turn right instead of go straight or whatever.
I'll find it.
Thanks. So that's what we're gonna do right now, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
I got to be part of a really cool experience because I was teaching the teacher leadership course, AQ course for Brock. the coordinator for the AQ courses hit me up with an email from the College of Teachers. The College of Teachers, I guess, emailed or contacted all providers that teach the teacher leadership part one course and said it's time for a guideline review. So if you know of anybody who would like to participate in this guideline review, let us know, and we're gonna do a review. So I was asked if I was interested, and I'm like, yes, I'm interested. Sign me up. So I got signed up. Oh, Rochelle says flip the switch. It's like a lever, Rochelle. Like you somebody pulls the lever and then the
So I
tracks
got,
they
I'll drop
shift.
it.
Oh,
I'll drop it
okay.
because
Thanks.
Rochelle. So you have kind of three. So switch can be the noun and the action.
Okay.
The space that it happens at is called a turnout. It can be called a turnout.
Hmm.
And typically the turnout is at a junction.
Okay. So we're
There we
turning out.
go.
Awesome. We're turning out
There's
at
our
the
rail.
junction. I'm
Yeah,
flipping the switch.
that's our railway word wall for Saturday morning.
Awesome. Let's boop. I'll put on
Yeah.
my railway word wall. Um. So it's 3 sessions. This is additional qualification course guideline review, and in the first session we did an icebreaker where it was a digital icebreaker where we had this digital space and we would put our name and a couple of things about us. So I'm like, I'm Roland. I tell them what I do, and then I said that for fun I podcast. That's one of my hobbies. And so people read that, and then, every now and again during the first session, someone's like, "Hey, Roland, so you podcast during downtimes?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I think they're thinking like Joe Rogan, they're thinking like big time. I'm like, no, Clough and I, that's not how we roll. Like, it's on we're pod tubers. They're like, what does that mean? So I explained that. So the third session happened the other
TM,
day.
TM, TM.
TM, yeah. The third session happened the other day, and there was a downtime between the work we were doing, which was fantastic work, in my opinion. And then people are like, Roland, can you tell us about your podcast? Like, where do we find it? And so I start, I literally like, grabbed the mic, like I took over the space. So you can imagine there are all these like Ontario College of Teachers staffers who are there keeping us on the railway, and I friggin' turn out. I'm like, choop, decoded podcast. So I start telling them, they're like, is it on Spotify? And I'm like, no. And I'm explaining. It was just funny how this is my hobby. This is what we do. And it was funny because I went totally into decoded podcast mode because there were like 4 people in a space of 12 people. So like a third of the group were like, tell us about your podcast. We're interested. We listen to podcasts. I'm like, okay, well, it's a Saturday morning thing, and this is kind of what we do. So hopefully somebody from there checks this out and lets me know. That's my story. It was just fun. It was like, you do a podcast? Because to them, I got the vibe that they're thinking like highfalutin. And I'm like, nah, we don't do that. We do what works for us. And this is what works for us. Saturday mornings, pod tubing, we do the YouTube thing. I've been slacking and not posting to the Apple iPod world. So it's like if you want to just listen to the audio, I'm like 100 episodes behind, which I'm debating what to do with that. Can we get on Spotify without paying for it? I don't know, but that'd be kind of cool too. Something for me to look into. But this is what we do. This is how we roll. And I love that about us because so as I'm selling Decoded Podcast, at the end of the sales pitch, I'm the guy that says, yeah, don't buy my shit. Basically I said like, so this is it, and then I'm like, but we do it for ourselves. So if you check it out, awesome, and if you don't, I don't give a beep because I don't do it for you, I do it for me. um so yeah, anyway, I thought, and then I smiled like an idiot because I'm like, I sell it. I'm like, yeah, don't buy it. Thanks everybody. And then the College of Teachers are like, give me back the friggin' mic, right? They're like, we're doing a thing here. I'm like, yeah, but people were asking me questions and I felt the need to talk about it. So I did.
Mhm.
So here's your mic. No factor for me. I don't care. And I say that with all due respect. You asked me, so I dove in. there's my story about our podcast and about some high level that there were some high level people in that room that I was working with, and it was friggin' fun. And I got to tell you one more thing.
Be
I took
honest with me. Be honest with me.
can I? Can I
You
be
can.
frank and Jimmy?
Yep. Frank and Jimmy.
I I took that whole experience and I grabbed that experience like a picture I posted on Twitter of the man fighting the lion, which I love that image. That was me. The lion was the lion was being in a place where maybe you think you don't fit in, or maybe you think that your voice is not important. That wasn't me over those 3 sessions. I was the guy pinning the lion to the wall. I was like, "I've got something to say." I remember telling you a lot of people in the room were administrators. I'm not an administrator. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher leader, and I teach the teacher leadership course, and I'm proud of that. And I own that. And I'm going to take that lion, pin it to the wall, and say my piece. I owned those 3 Zoom experiences. And I came out of it feeling really awesome about the learning I acquired and the connections I made. And I'm looking at my cards here because I had no problem with my inner authority. It was literally on the first
The
session,
tools.
the
Props
tools,
to
baby.
Stutz. Yeah,
Props to
props
stats. The
to
stools are
Stutz. Yeah.
here. And on the first one, I looked at the inner authority, and I was like, I'm supposed to use this in intimidating situations when I might freeze. And I looked at it, I thought about it, and then I grabbed the line and I threw it against the wall. Thanks for listening to my mini TED talk.
It's good.
And if you're not sure what I'm talking about with the lion, I'll post it in the comments. But I saw this great image, and it was a stoic image, but I was like, it speaks to me. It speaks to my fear in life. It speaks to those moments where, when do I grab the lion and pin it against the wall? I do it when my back's against the wall and I have no choice. I'd rather not do it in those situations. I'd rather have the choice to step into a zone and grab that lion. What and no, it could hurt me, it could kill me, but if I die, it's on my terms and in my control. And when I frame it that way, nothing's going to stop me. TED Talk Part 2. Okay.
Boom. Mic dropped.
Do you want to turn out now and go somewhere else, Chris?
Um,
Where do you want to go?
I don't know. That's good, eh? It's funny. Like sometimes we drop an hour and a half worth of conversation, and it's all like, yeah. And then sometimes we hit this like what we're like 43 minutes in,
Yeah,
and then
43.
and then that feels like yeah. What would be good? What would be good to kind of jump into?
I thought I mean, so I talked about the AQ thing.
Mhm.
I talked about the Mount Mary retreat experience. I'm just kind of talking out loud about the things that I wanted to hit. Um,
I like the I so yeah, yeah, here's some stuff, and it's kind of like updatey stuff. So we have let's get to some AI. I'll drop some AI
okay.
stuff because that's yeah, we'll play there just for a little bit. Um so on the on ramp, I was mentioning to you that so big fan of Krista Tippett, right? Like it's kind of like that's you the nearest equivalent, the way I would put it to you is like you say you do your virtual church on Sunday. You still doing that sometimes? Yeah, still doing the virtual. Okay, so thumbs up on that. So for me, I would say the nearest equivalent is a podcast called On Being. So Krista Tippett, um, she a theologian, journalist, poet, writer, podcast host, kind of like the upper the upper creator of that podcast On Being. And there's other things that have come out of that. Um, Poetry Unbound is a subset that has come out of that with Padre Gotuma. Really, really cool poet. So like I really like the whole ecosystem that's a part of On Being. This morning, um, as part of the newsletter, Krista, the newsletter came out, and there was a part in there that, and this is what one of the things that I love, and this happens more for me with poetry than it does prose, like straight ahead writing. I often, um, hmm, when I find words that help me to understand something that I may not have even realized I was struggling with, or a concept that I just kind of like parked. I'm like, I don't want to think about that anymore. Um, when I come across a piece of writing that helps me to recontextualize or just handle some of my own thinking, I really appreciate that. I find that happens more with poetry. It's, the nearest equivalent being like, you're having a very sad time in your life, so you want to listen to a certain song. Or you're having a sad time in your life and or like a happy time, and maybe there's a certain poem that you want to do to commemorate that time. So it's like going to the words, or at least going to a space where words are going to be. It could be a familiar one, it could be an unfamiliar one. In this case, I just went where I knew good words would be. I read the newsletter. In the middle of this newsletter, Krista said this. So this is a reference to AI. The bedrock fact, lost in all the speculation, all the spectacle, I messed that up, lost in all the spectacle and speculation, is that what we are marveling at when we marvel at ChatGPT-4 is ourselves. It is a student of, a mirror on, and all the kinds of intelligence we possess, good, bad, and ugly, and all the ways we interact. I believe that this technology is going to confront us with the human condition as nothing has before, and invite us at its best to grow that up. And I'm enjoying and pondering and investigating how we will weave this exploration into our next On Being season. That hit me so hard because lots of different reasons, but primarily my whole drive to come back to Twitter for right now over the last month is exactly what she just articulated. I said I want to sit at the intersection of equity and spec ed, using AI and Ontario education. I want to find these stories. I want to find these conversations. I'm not looking for a fait accompli. I don't need an end answer. I just need to be engaged in the conversation and to find spaces where discover, find, be invited into spaces where this conversation is already happening. So, you're mentioning, a friend that had articulated to you finding kind of purpose, this idea of finding purpose, and how amazing, like you said, the energy was kind of there. Like this was really a cool thing for them to be able to say this. I feel like this has shaped and turn my head towards a direction that I want to face moving forward. Whether I stay on Twitter to investigate this, that just happens to be where the high concentration of teachers are. But that's what I want to do. I want to sit at that good, bad, and ugly, and how AI is a mirror. And I want to stay in that space of AI as a mirror because I want to keep it relational. So, and the mirror looks back at you, you're looking at the mirror, but it's something that we have created, right? We have created this mirror, and what's the implications of that to stay in a relationship with it, to know that we're in a relationship with it? What are the emotions that come with it? What are the complications that come with that? Well, how does our responsibility then flow out of that? I'm going to stay a little bit in that philosophical kind of zone and seek out those conversations. The counterpoint to this is that I've had enough conversations where the evangelism of AI, I get it. I get it. I follow enough people about the cool factor of AI. I follow enough people that are talking about the danger of AI. I follow enough people that are talking about how it's necessary for job skills and the future of our students. I get it. Those become very one-dimensional if I can't then sit down with some people that are sharing their direct struggle either in using it, in not using it, or the transformation between those two places. Individuals that 2 weeks ago said, I am never effing going to use this tool. And then they're walking down the hall. They're like, you know what I tried? I don't care that they tried. I want to know what got them to move. What was the thing? And to be as serious as I was having a down day, I didn't have time. So I put into ChatGPT a request. I needed 5 prompts. I did this because I was tired. Or I did this because I saw a student doing it and I accidentally mentioned something to the kid. And I saw the kid enter it right there in front of me. Or it was like it came up at one of our department meetings. So we as a department all did it together so we could sort of have diffused responsibility. We all tried it at the same time, peer pressure. But I want to know those spaces. And the last thing I'll say on this is this Friday, we have a professionally managed PD day where we get to decide. I mean, we can do a lot of different things, but I'm going to put forward to my staff an invite to have a discussion around this, an open table discussion around AI, very much the good, the bad, the ugly. But I love, like, it's like when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I now have the language that I can use. How do we see AI as a mirror? I could use in the past, I've heard the whole sort of like mirror, wall, door, when we're talking about prompts and ideas and lenses and within literature themes. How is this a mirror? How is this the window? How is this the door? How is this an open space? But that's the conversation I'm craving. Part of my proposal, so I had to get a couple approvals just to sort of like ed camp this, but that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a virtual ed camp. And I'm going to set a minimum of 10 people. I'm going to set a max of 15. And I'll hold another session if people are interested, but I'm going to hold the door. I'm going to say, because I only really want to spend about an hour here. I do have other things to do on Friday. So I want it to be fairly concentrated. I also want the group to be small. I don't want to have a massive group. So I think this is I feel good about taking this next step. It's like some of the stuff that I've learned through other people that I have access to, some of the learning I've done online, some of my own playing with large language models. Now I haven't stepped into the image to text stuff, mostly because I'm not prepared to pay. I have played with some. Like I played with DALL-E in the past, and there are a couple other little low-level ones they're okay. They're okay. I haven't played too much with any of the text to image AIs that are on par with the Freeb version of ChatGPT 4. So that specifically right now as a large language model and text to text is pretty robust. I'm just not prepared to pay for the equivalent robustness. I don't even know if that's a word, but the equivalent. But we've got people that are playing, so I can observe what they're doing. So that's what I'm thinking, bud.
I'm looking forward to hearing how the session goes.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that it goes off, that it happens. Ideally, you've got that sweet spot, the right number of people who are ready to learn, listen, participate, extend. My fingers are crossed for you. As I say that, I think you don't there no luck needs to happen. It just needs to be, you put it out there and you just see what comes of it. But I really hope people take you up on the opportunity, because as we've been going back and forth about AI, Ontario EDU, and how we jump into it, you've lit me up with you, Jamie, Rodrigue, and Chris Demirs have, and Michael Redfern. The
Mm-hmm.
back and forth we're having on Twitter around this is really lighting me up in good ways. It's
Other
really,
people too.
oh, sorry,
Zoe.
I don't know who.
Yeah, remember Zoe? Well, just we think about like that's our immediate circle. But see, Zoe Brannigan Pipe
Yeah,
has been a part of it. Who was the other person? Um, there was another. What was her name?
I just think recently, like yesterday's thread, is
Yeah, true.
between you, Jamie, Chris, Mike. But you're right. Other people have jumped into it. to kind of talk about it, discuss it, but it's really helping me identify my values around it, what I really care about. I don't care about Ontario education. I don't care about any particular location. I know why you're talking about Onted. I just feel for myself, it's like, I don't care. How do we bring this to the teachers? How do we get teachers to jump on board? And it's like,
Mhm.
Chris made a point. We need PD. We need to provide teachers with PD. And I'm like, well, there's teachers are still exhausted. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but they're exhausted. There's still like lingering effects from COVID, that whole
Mhm.
thing. Um, and dealing with the students in front of us that went through that whole COVID thing with school. So there's lots of after effects. I'm not going to get into them, but part of that means teachers are really tired. So when we can't have PD during the day because we don't have any occasional teachers to come in and take over classes,
Mhm.
and we can have PD in the evening, but then that means that teachers have to take time out of their personal life, and some are not going to do that. We can't expect them to do that. So,
Don't tell us to be family first and take care of our wellness system and then plop stuff down in the middle of the time when we're focusing on family and wellness, right?
bro, don't
That's
get me started. But the thing is, like,
we're already started.
I just feel like you can, yeah, you do. I'm going to do what I want with my time after work. And I'm going to pick and choose where I want to invest my learning time.
Mhm.
And even if it's even connected to my school board, I'm doing learning all the time. You know that it's
Yes,
on
I know
my
that.
terms. So sure, you can offer it after school, but nobody will show up or 10 people will show up. And it's the people who are starving for it, not everybody else who kind of needs to know it. So end of the day, we have some real issues about how do we do this? How do we bring this to people? And again, after I said that, then I read other tweets, and you guys bring me to a place where, I understand that basically we have to start acting. Act, and that's one of my favorite words when it comes to leadership. We need to take action. So if it's
Mhm.
me, you, Chris, and Jamie, hey, we're doing something. We're moving the needle in the right direction by taking action, and hopefully other people will jump in. At the end of the day, I really don't do well with like considering other people, because if I do that, then I may not take action. So I need to find reasons within me, intrinsic reasons for taking action. And then if
Mhm.
other people jump in, for me, that is always a bonus if people come for the ride. But when I'm driving the bus and I'm looking back, I'm like, okay, I got 100 seats, everybody get in. That doesn't work for me. Like, I'm not saying I don't do that. I'm just saying I have a workaround for that so that I'm actually doing that without that being my first priority. But to everybody else, it may look like it's my first priority. I don't even know if that makes sense. It makes sense to
Mhm.
me, but I'm really digging where we're going with this. I'm really, and like Jamie has taken off with Mid Journey. He is like, I love the realm he's in, playing with Midjourney, understanding it, the prompts. He's sharing like crazy. For me, that is like it's like Jamie 3.0 for me, having known him for many years, but it's
Mhm.
also watching him kind of joyfully experiment brings me joy, and then we both feed off of that. So it's like just really cool how you see your network move in a positive direction and then it feeds you. It's like that picture and the words I shared on Twitter. That when I think, how did I get here? I think about you. I think about Carl. I think about Jamie. I think about your creative. I think about how even when I don't think it's affecting me positively, it is. Because when I see where it brought me, I'm like, this is the bomb. This is what I'm here for. This is
Yep.
what I'm working towards all the time, right? And it doesn't matter to me if anybody reads it or if anybody cares because I didn't make it for anybody else. I made it for me. But if other people can benefit, then that's a bonus for me.
I Can we jump track again? Just a quick one.
Yeah, let's do it.
It was a fun moment this week where so I'm in my third year at the school that I'm at. And sorry, I'll backtrack. And I feel the same way. Share, get it out there. I'm beyond the I'm beyond I feel like it's not that I'm untouchable, but it just doesn't occur to me as I explore create and publish, that sort of like that trifecta doesn't, I'm no longer shy about hitting the share or publish button. I sort of recognize one, my capacity and my skill set to do it responsibly and according to OCT rules, and to do it according to my union rules, and to like I'm comfortable in navigating the rules there, but also navigating the discussions if people push back. I'm good. I'm good. So that's no longer, when I first started, that was an issue, that fear, the hovering over the publish button, right? That's I think for young bloggers and podcasters or creatives, that's a big moment. That's a big moment to think about hitting that publish button for the first time. And I don't want to undervalue the transformative um, feelings that happen when you actually manage to hit the publish. That's big. And there's a whole lot of people that will just do private for a long, long time, and then, never really share out to a crew except maybe like face to face. So doing that digitally in a good way. I love that you're rocking it. Have always loved it. Love that Jamie does it as well. And I go looking for individuals that are willing to exist there with me to be able to share openly. So I just want to mention that. Kudos to you and others that sort of exist in that same way. And here's where it gets really cool is, and this leads a little bit into what I want to share, is that I've had students, they say like, it's hilarious. We put your name into Google search and it's like, we see a funny picture of you as a kid, or we come across one of your blog posts, or we come across your podcast, or they come across the EdCan work that I did. Or the back in the day, the Pechakucha talks that you did. They're like, it's sort of like, how long have you been doing stuff online? I'm like, well, for a little while. So here's where I'll finish on this. A teacher at my school came up to me with a little bit of I'll say it looked a little bit of like a stressed, astonished face. They sort of come up and they're like, oh, I need to talk to you. And like, that's a trigger. I mean, I often think like, if someone's coming to me, it's because, well, I'm spec ed, that I work with a very particular crew. Some people know of my OSSTF background. So some people still are like, oh, I need to ask you this thing about kind of like an OSSTF thing. But it's rare that somebody has come up to me and said, I'm still waiting for these ones. Oh my gosh, I read one of your poems on the weekend. Like, I haven't had that one happen nearly as much, which would be a good conversation too. Thank you for writing that piece. I enjoyed it, that kind of a conversation. So anyways, the teacher got right into it. I need to talk to you about one of your students. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do this. And they're like, they have a picture of you. I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting. Like, I wait for them, like, okay, because I know you can find lots of pictures of me online, different stages of beardedness and different lengths of hair. It's all there, right? So they're like, yeah, and they're using it for a project. I'm like, oh, now you've got me curious. So in our intro to tech course, so high school intro tech course, they do multiple technologies. Like, they'll try different technologies. So there's a little bit of design, there's a little bit of construction. I think they do some comm tech as well. I forget the full selection, but one of the projects they do is a kind of like a shadow box that's backlit. So what they do is they build a frame and then they work with some, I think it's tin, and the tin they pixelate. So they put a bunch of kind of dots in it. And then if they want, they have the time, they can backlight it. So you get this cool kind of like lit pixel face kind of a thing. And so one of the kids took a picture of me online and is doing that. And the kid never told me. So the kid never said that they're working on this. And the teacher's like, I just wanted you to know. I'm like, that's awesome. I said, I hope they'll give it to me. And the teacher's like, I don't know if they will, but like, I love it. I love it. It was a funny moment of, I guess, the teacher not knowing how I would react, right? A little bit concerned about the reaction. I love that I was able to rock that authenticity. Like, someone kind of is catching up to my speed. And for me to say, I'm fine with this. I actually love this idea. I said, more Clough branding at this school. Why not? I said, I only hope the kid gives it to me at the end. I want to put it on the wall. That's awesome. The last few years, I would do some activities where I asked the kids when I teach geo, I ask the kids, vector drawing. You can kind of use Google Draw and kind of do those connected lines kind of thing. So I use that tool to teach the kids how to do mapping. I show them how to use the vector drawing because a lot of the kids, not a lot of kids, the kids that I've worked with, because they're all on like SIA technology. They all have technology. I try and build some cool activities so they don't have to leave. They can do all their work right on there. So one of the things that in the past some of my kids have frustrated them is having to use pencil crayons and coloring an analog map, which is that's an evergreen activity in many geography courses, doing the landforms or doing the provinces. And, there's the key and the color and all that's important. Well, I'm saying to the kids, I'm like, well, let's build our own maps. So let's take a template, draw out the part of the map that we need. You can use the fill tool. You can do the gradient tool to kind of make it look kind of cool and textured. So the practice lead up to that is I give them a photo of me. I'm like, I want you to map out Clough's face. And what you're going to do is you're going to label it eye, ear. You're going to have a key based on Clough's face. So some of these are still out there, and I'm surprised more of them haven't made it to like other feeds, but they're hilarious. I said, you're welcome to bling it up too. So sometimes they'll put like sunglasses on me or like some sort of like fancy hair. So it's very much in step of how I've played with the kids in the past. So I love it. Love it. But the teacher approached me like, oh, like, I got to tell you something. I'm like, I'm good. We're good. I said, this is going to be awesome.
Can you show us your artwork for today, Chris?
I'm almost done.
Oh.
But yeah, it's close. So I'll put it up. So
it's a chat GPT prompt?
Kind of.
Oh.
So it's hey, chat GPT, what's it like being an artificial intelligence? And then the response is, hey, human, what's it like being in a conversation with an AI? And then just the human kind of like dot.
So as you're drawing that, I guess I'm drawing on me.
I saw that. I thought it was a mole on your arm.
No, it's the way the pen was and the way my arm was. It's all good though. We're both doing art.
Yep.
We're both doing art. I was thinking about, while you're finishing that up, I was thinking about tattoos the other day. Okay. I don't know why. Just it came to me, and I wondered a couple of things. The first one was, I'm thankful and happy that I didn't get the tattoo that I wanted when I was like a teenager. I wanted like a crest on my forearm type of thing. I'm glad I didn't do that. Okay. Which then reminded me that maybe that's why I've never gotten a tattoo, because I don't want to look at it years down the road and be like, why did I do that? Which sucks, because that's not a cool way to think of the tattoo. Like, that's not cool. So, who wants to do that? Who wants to get something on them and then regret it later? Like, why am I thinking that way? Why can't I think, this is a moment in my life, this means something to me, and it'll be a good reminder? Whatever. Everybody has their reason for getting what they get. And then I thought that one point I wanted to get in small ways on my body the symbol for each of the educational institutions that I studied at. Because Carleton is the raven, Nipissing is the owl, and the University of Ottawa is the horse. And so it'd just be really cool to have those symbols spread across me. But then I'm like, because those things, you can't take those away from me. I've been there. I've learned there. You can't take that away. That is part of who I am today. It's part of my learning journey. Anyway, I was just, as you finish your art, you're drawing, I'm drawing on me, and I'm like, hey, let me talk about tattoos for a second.
To challenge your thinking a little bit, I don't know if it actually works like that, bro.
If what works like what?
That projected regret that you're doing.
It could work for me. I'm not saying it works for
you. It could, but I don't know if it's...
That's why I'm saying, why am I thinking that way?
Mm-hmm. And what I loved about that's what I loved about how you doubled back on that.
I don't think that way.
Yeah, it's the... I think that there is an element of permanence. There's an element of you got to answer for what you put there. And for me, so I have a tattoo here on my chest. It's three jackals kind of like wrapped around each other. And I've thought about getting it touched up because I got it when I was like maybe 25. So it's been there for a while. What's that? 25. So 25 years I've had that. That was my first tattoo. The second one is the one that I have on my arm here. And I thought to myself, I guess that's the only way to think. You can't really think to somebody else. But I thought that I should get it touched up or fixed somehow. Every time that enters my mind, though, I feel like the reason that I got it is no longer the reason that I keep it. And it's a funny thing that can happen with nostalgic items. The reason that I got it is had something to do with a relationship I was coming out of and some thinking that I had about a relationship. That thinking no longer exists, though I can remember that was the starting point. But every time I look at it, I get out of the shower, it's right there. I can see it on my chest. I really like how it represents 25 years of change. There's something about it when I look at it that I think to myself, it's easy to disappear into your own life. For me, it's easy for me to disappear into my own life and kind of forget how long I've been on this planet. But I like the iconography that reminds me and grounds me and compels me to be purposeful. I go through that very quickly now and I'm like, okay, 25 years ago, okay, I'm creeping up on 52. Okay, I've told you I want to live to 100, right? That's my Stoic calendar. So 100 is
Right.
my number. And I say that in all seriousness. I'm like that. So I kind of go, okay, I've got 48 years to think about this. How am I grounded? How am I purposeful? How am I active in my life? And I love how this tattoo, which looks like shit, like but besides the sort of the gray chest hair that's over it, which wasn't there when I got it, it's a great icon for me that anchors me in a very kind of humble space because it's also I can't hang on to the 25-year version of me. I have to be 52. I have to be. So there's something about that's what I was sort of thinking about is you're like that idea of projected regret. I hear that and I hear that from many people. They want to get just two initials on their wrist. Well, what if I regret? What if like years from now I regret getting those initials there? I say count on it, but also count on it being far more complex than that. Now, if you are being branded, if you're doing it in a harmful way, like if you're not going in, let's say, to the tattoo process with a kind of like a balanced mindset, then I would say you are setting yourself up for far more complicated feelings down the road. But I always like to be in this conversation because I would say singularly when individuals I've heard people like, oh, you have tattoos. Oh, you have a lot of tattoos. The first question is that still is, does it hurt? That still is like one of the first things that's asked. And then the second one is like kind of like a question, but more of a statement for themselves. Like, yeah, I would love to get one, but I don't want to pick the wrong thing. And I'm on the other side of thinking it's amazing. It can be quite amazing when you pick the wrong thing. Because let's say like the AI, picking it now creates a mirror. And you may not have access to that thinking 25 years from now when you're looking down and trying to figure out like who are you relative to that? How have you grown since when you got that tattoo? And that's a real gift for me. Just no matter what emerges from it, is to try and see myself in both views and appreciate how far I've come with that. So that's my yeah, that's my promo code on that. Decoded tattoo parlor, right?
As I take
Decoded ink.
decoded ink, yeah. as I take in your promo code, I'm glad I didn't get those tattoos
Mhm.
because I can always get them now if I want. I
Absolutely.
I could, and I think that would be a great way to start small in terms of from like in my thinking. Um, this is funny because my kids were talking to me the other day. My children
Mhm.
were talking to me about my university. I shouldn't say university because it's funny because they talk about university now, and I'm like, you guys don't have to go to university if you don't want to. Like for me, it was never a choice. At
Mhm.
that time, it was not a choice. It was happening. I was going, coming, come hell or high water. But for them, it's different. It's a different world we live in, and I'm not my dad. I'm their dad. So it's like, no, you guys, you'll go to where you need to go to learn what you need to learn, to do
Mhm.
what you feel you need to do. But they were asking me about my university experience, and they were like, it was kind of neat because they're like, which one did you enjoy the most, Dad? And why? And so I'd start telling them, and it was just really cool to hear them ask these questions that I could answer because I couldn't ask my father those questions. My father didn't have
Mm.
I think my father didn't even finish grade school back in Lebanon. Um, I no, I'm sure he didn't finish grade school. And I know my mom finished high school, um, but my dad didn't. I never could ask my father these questions. I never could. He didn't have. If I was interested in business, I could have asked my father about business because he had his own businesses and things of that nature. So my kids are asking me these questions, and I'm reflecting, and it was a nice reflection. It was hey, I went there, I accomplished what I set out to do, and I've moved on, and I'm so happy that I did that. So it's
Mhm.
like then if I connect that to the tattoos, it's like I could get the Nipissing owl on my calf or something, and I can be proud of something I did in my life that was good. But totally hear what you're saying. And as I listen to the
Where would you
promo
get it? Where would you get it?
on
If you did right now, you had the money, somehow you could make the decision. We'll pull that just like right now, what would be the spot that you would get a tattoo on?
my calf.
On the calf?
Yeah.
Can you speak to why you would anoint your calf that way? What's the thing that makes that seem like the right thing to do?
I like that spot on the body that
Mhm.
it can it's not directly in my face all the time. So if I want to look at it, I have to like purposely move my body in a way to look at it.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is it's there, it's down low. So I know it's there. It's visible if I wear shorts. People can see it if they look there. It's not completely hidden, but it's not completely out in the open. And um I just feel like it's a good space. Like um I've got a lot of space there to
Mhm.
put something there. That's why. Um Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but those are the first things that come to mind about my calf. I've always
Mhm.
envisioned a tattoo either on my forearm or on my calf. Yeah. And then I think I've got some cool ideas. Like it would be really neat to have like a triangle formation of the three animals. And then and on the calf, and then people who look might question, "Hey, what is this triangle that you have of these animals?" I'm like, well, sit down. I'll buy you a drink. Let me tell you the story. This is the story of my formal education, which is steeped in a lot of different things that come with me from Lebanon, right? That come with this. There's a story. My parents are part of the story. I'm part of the story. My where I am today is because of that past. Like it really would be here. Let me buy you a beverage. Sit
I
down.
was about to say
You're not going
this is
anywhere.
a 2 beer combo. This is at least a 2 beer
Yeah,
combo.
if it's beer, coffee, whatever, I'll pay
Coffee,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But it's a story. So have a seat. Mm, there it is. Chat GPT. I can't read it,
Yeah, my
but
camera
I
doesn't
like it.
focus in. Yep. It's kind of super simple.
Hey,
Super simple.
before I let you go, can I tell you about not being able to read that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so recently, recently, the past couple of months, I'm laying in bed. When I go to bed, I like to use my iPad for a little bit before I like it's part of my routine.
Hmm.
So I'm on YouTube. I'm trying to watch some videos, and I'm having a hard time reading the text.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh God, I think I need to go see the eye doctor.
Hmm.
So I tell my wife I gotta go see the eye doctor. My wife is still mesmerized at the fact that my eyesight is still good.
Hmm.
She's like, everybody in this house needs glasses except you.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
think that, yeah, like my eyesight is still, for a 46-year-old man, it's still on point and it shouldn't be, but whatever. So I
It
I call
shouldn't be.
I call the eye doctor and I'm like, I need to check up. And I'm like, I'm having difficulty seeing things up close, reading text up close. They're like, okay. So I get in to see the doc. She checks me out and she's like, you know what, Roland? She goes, your eyesight is still perfect. The issue is, this is what happens with age. When people get to your age, they start to struggle this way. So she's like, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. This is what happens to people your age. So she's like, you could literally go get like over the counter plus one reading glasses and
Hmm.
that'll do you fine if you choose to. I'm
Yep.
like, you're telling me there's nothing wrong with my eyes? She's like, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. I'm like, I don't need the glasses then if this is normal. She's like, it's normal. Two thumbs up. Um, so it's just funny because you put it up. I'm like, yeah, I can't read that, but there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing
That's
wrong with
cool,
me.
bro. That's cool. Just so you're gonna go get. They're called readers. You're just gonna get some readers.
I guess. I mean, like I'm not dying to go get them. It's just one of those things that if this is
I would
funny,
love to be that guy. I would love to be that guy because you can like just go to Shoppers
I
and
can go
get.
anywhere.
Yeah, and they're fairly cheap. They're kind of cool. They're kind of cool because they're lightweight. Like, and you can. They have like they're super thin, and it's just a little bit of a bump. Just the bump.
Well, even the doc said, I'll cut you a prescription and you don't even have to pay for it. Like your benefits can pay for it. You can just get them
Hmm.
right here. So I was gonna say it's one of those things when the family's out at Walmart or Shoppers, but we don't do that anymore because of COVID. We don't
Right.
go anywhere like that anymore. But yeah, if I feel the need or if I see something I like, I could pick them up. Um, I just wanted to say that because I connected it to the reading. Tyler joins us. Hey, Tyler, what's up? Thanks for checking us out. Tyler
Tyler
says,
Keith.
yeah, Tyler Keefe. He's got a cat on his calf. He'll shoot me a picture of it. But it's a character my late uncle drew in high school. Got it the day of his funeral. Bro, it's a cool story. I'm sorry about your uncle,
Hmm.
but I like the connection
That's a
to
perfect connection.
that is a perfect connection. That's like, in my opinion, that's the ideal if you're gonna get a tattoo, but everybody gets them for different reasons. And I have to tell you, oh, I know we have to go, but I was at everything hits Walmart today. I was at Walmart pre-pandemic shopping with the kids, shopping with the family, and there was a couple. There was a couple, and they were walking past me, and the lady was wearing shorts, and her whole one leg, like from the line of where the shorts ended to her ankle, was all ink. Was all ink. And literally, as we're walking, I'm driving, I'm running into things because I'm staring at her leg trying to see the
Hmm.
different things that are there. And then I don't know who said it. Somebody said, "Dad, why are you looking at that lady?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? She's got her leg is completely tattooed
Hmm.
and she's wearing shorts. So tough luck. I'm eyeballing. I want to see
Yeah.
what are these different things on your leg. Like it wasn't, they were all pictures. It wasn't like a design. It was different images. But dude, like literally from the ankle all the way up, one leg. I'm like, I want to see this. There were cartoon characters. It was, in my opinion, very well done. So whoever did it, wherever it was done, it was like it wasn't prison tattoo type stuff. It was like real deal. And then I'm
Hmm.
thinking, what did that cost? Because I know
Hmm.
that it can be very expensive. So I'll make the
Baseline,
connection.
baseline. I would say
Fine.
you're looking at if you're like if you are, I would say a decent tattooer, like let's say not decent, I would say a reputable, responsible, clean tattooer, you're looking between $200 to $300 an hour. So yeah, so this one here on my arm here, so this skull, that was 2 hour, just under 2 hours for this person. Now this individual, Mother's Wish, props to you, Mother's Wish. That's the name of the tattoo artist. Um, that they sometimes the artist will say, you know what? They'll just give you the design, they'll say, I'll do it for this amount. So it becomes like a block price. Other times, ongoing relationship ones, it's harder to do. Like if you do a full leg sleeve like that, where you can see it's not just like it's not like Polaroid snaps all over there where it's just bits. There's actually some continuity, even if it's different imaging. About between $200 and $300 an hour. The one Andrew Wilson, this one on my forearm here, he said when we were talking about it, he's like, he goes, I think that one would be about. He said we'll do that one for 280. So, and it was all in. So it's just like he goes, that's what the charge was, and I was with him for about an hour and a quarter to get that one done. So you get a full leg done, depending on the density, a full leg, thousands of dollars, easily thousands of dollars. And what I love about that sometimes is also thinking about the relationship, because that is no different. It is no different than the chef whose food you love, the comic book artist that you always love to read their stories, or the author or the musician, and you just will buy their album after album or go to their concert after concert. And what I love that we don't often talk about it in the same way. Like I don't think people, like if you were to tell someone you went and saw Britney Spears 10 times, you would be less, it would be more likely that they would think that you obviously like Britney Spears. It would be made specific to Britney Spears. However, if you said, you see someone with a full leg of tattoos, I don't know if we automatically go to, you really like that tattoo artist. It's not, we don't have that nice correlation between really appreciating an artist and being prepared to pay for their money. On that tattoo thing, and Tyler actually got me thinking about this, it's no longer like it was, I kind of liked it. I did like that moment back in the day where there was something where people were like, oh, teacher with tattoos. But we've lost that trope now. And it's like nothing to see teacher with, like I have, my ears pierced and I have tattoos. It's funny. At some point, someone said to me, oh, you know what? This person's really going to appreciate this challenging to serve individual. They're going to like talking to you because you've got tattoos, a shaved head, and earrings. And okay, I'm fine. I mean, you've had this. I mean, the fact that you're racialized has also been used to grease the wheels for a relationship. There's different things as we present that will help with that. But I kind of miss that. No one said that to me in a while. I'm now accepted. I'm not fringe anymore. So everyone's got tattoos now. So
your talk about AI in the classrooms got you back on the fringe.
Yeah, the AI, yeah, AI, me sitting in the rocking chair like, I gotta understand this, get off my lawn.
I'm not the fringe anymore. I like that.
So that's okay. That's okay. We done?
Okay, we're done. This was season 6, episode 31, number 249. Thanks for everybody for checking us out. Great convo. Good times.
Yeah,
Good
props
times
to
in rock and
Tyler,
roll.
Rochelle, Gary. Nice to see people jumping in.
Yeah, for sure. And anybody else who checked us out, thanks. And hey, hit us up on Twitter if you want. I'm at Archids, and Chris is at Chasing Squirrels, but it's spelled differently. So pay attention to what you see on the screen there.
I could be found Chris Clough too. You could probably search me that way too.
I love to put the J in, Chris J. Clough.
Yes, and sometimes I have to do that. Like I can't. It's the only way that I have to do that. I got to flex the J. A couple times it was even Chris John, right? But that's okay. They're all me. They're all me.
Okay.
Okay. Peace, man.